now let's get into the impact of this bill when it comes to federal student loans. We're going to go a little rapid fire, but I will do my best to catch you up if this is language with which you're not familiar. Let's start with the elimination of several federal student loan payment plans. This bill does away with the extended plan and the graduated plan for federal student loans. So the only non-income driven repayment plan that would be available would be the standard plan. So you just, based on the amount of years they give you, it's very straightforward. You have an interest rate, you have a certain period of time in which you have to pay it off in full, and your payment that's calculated is going to be whatever is needed to have that payment be zero at the end of the repayment period. Now, they're also making that plan more punitive because right now you can get a standard plan between 10 and 30 years, depending on the amount that you owe. But they're taking that down to 25 years. So they're taking away 5 years of potential repayment periods for people. And I would argue that if you're going to be paying your loans off for that period, you probably would have just done income-driven repayment plans anyways. But conceptually, this is something that you need to be aware of. Hey, there is no 30-year option anymore. If this passes, it'll be 10 to 25 years, depending on certain circumstances when it comes to your loans. Now, that is the camp of the more standard type of plans. We now have to talk about the income-driven repayment plans because this is where the rubber kind of meets the road. They are proposing eliminating all income-driven repayment plans with the exception of the old version of income-based repayment and a new plan that they are suggesting called the repayment assistance plan. And this is a huge deal because the old income-based repayment plan is one of the worst options that you have. So just so you have an idea of how heavy of an impact that would be, if we had a family of two with an adjusted gross income of $150,000 under the pay-as-you-earn plan and the new income-based repayment plan, the payment would be $994.50 a month, which is already a tremendous amount of money. Under the old version of income-based repayment, it would be $1,491 per month. So you're talking about almost $500 more per month under this plan. So what they're proposing is doing away with those other plans completely. So the only option would be old income-based repayment. So in this example, family, of two, high income, but not the craziest income in the world, they'd be paying $1,500 a month towards their student loans with no other options besides the newly instituted repayment assistance plan. Now, you might say, well, maybe that's a really good plan and I can just go to that and save a whole bunch of money. No, it's not a really good plan. The first thing that's changing with that repayment assistance plan is there is a minimum payment required no matter what. That's important because if you're a low income earner, based on the rules of the income-driven repayment plans that currently exist, you could have a payment where you're technically considered paying and receiving credit towards forgiveness, even if your calculated payment is $0. But another element of this plan that makes it more punitive is unlike 20 years under pay-as-you-earn or new income-based repayment, or 25 years under old income-based repayment, under the repayment assistance plan, you'd have to pay for 30 years before any remaining balances would be forgiven. And here's the thing that I haven't even covered yet. If you are a current borrower, when they do away with those other payment plans, they would force you into old income-based repayment, but you'd at least have the option of that or repayment assistance plan, even though it's a terrible option. But for new borrowers, after a certain point, they won't even make old IBR the option. There would literally only be one income-driven repayment plan, and it would be the repayment assistance plan, which again requires you to pay for 30 years until remaining balances are forgiven, which is just an incredibly punitive idea to think that you could go to school for 4 years or 6 to 8 years if you went to a graduate program and then be stuck with that bill for up to 30 years if you don't pursue public service loan forgiveness. And while we're on public service loan forgiveness, there's some punitive news there because this bill proposes removing public service loan forgiveness eligibility for medical and dental residents, which is a tremendous deal. This is something that people in these professions really, really depend on. But by removing medical and dental residency as an eligible time period, you're now saying, oh, you can only start receiving credit if after your medical residency, you continue working in public service at a time when your income could triple, quadruple, quintuple. So not only are you going to potentially make less by working in public service loan forgiveness, but you don't start getting credit until that time when you're being paid far more than you were in residency. It is a tremendous disincentive for people in those industries to stay in public service unless they just have a heart for it, that if they had the opportunity, they would be able to excel at a place like Meharry. And those are big, beautiful, wonderful things. I grew up on that campus. I also know that if someone goes to a school like that and borrows all the way through, they're going to owe $400,000 plus when they come out. And at least prior to this point, there was a pathway to tell them this is not going to ruin your financial life. You will be able to still pursue wealth. This is not going to be an outsized burden on your finances. But if this passes, it changes a whole lot of advice that I give for people in terms of how they structure their finances around their student loans. And this is the reason why I'm telling people you need to reach out to your representation. You need to make sure that when it comes to other financial elements of this bill, but specific to student loans, that if you are a person who borrowed, that you say this can't pass, because if it does, it's going to add hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to my budget. It's going to add years to my life of repayment that I'm not trying to go through. And that is why advocacy, knowledge, and financial literacy is so important. And I hope that, as daunting as this sounds, that this provided some of that education, acknowledgement, advocacy, and financial literacy. So we're going to keep telling you how this bill is progressing. Again, right now it's at the Senate. If the Senate passes it, then it goes to the president's desk. The Senate could also make modifications. So there is the opportunity to change some of these things that's currently instituted. But the fact of the matter is, student loans are not the biggest priority to the House or the Senate. So this may be the thing that they think will not get that much press. So it's up to you to provide that press.